I've been working on the document folders here a little bit, and I thought I'd show you what I've been doing. So first off, I made them out of plywood, only because I didn't want them to expand too much, and they fit pretty good. So to start with, I milled some half-inch cherry here and put a dado on the two edges to create a lip. So then I nailed and glued the sides to the back and bottom, and I used some regular nails and tapped them in there. And with glue on the joint, it's pretty good. So it fits into the opening well, and because of the dado, it ends up with a stop. So what you're supposed to see here is the 3/16 of an inch on either side. So it fits in there pretty good. Then in a few minutes here, I'll show you how I did the fluted columns here on the router table. But then there are capitals and a base that go on it, and I carved those because I couldn't figure out how to do it with the router at all. So I just carved them. So you got a flat and then a cove in here with two fillets, and then of course a round there, and then another flat, and then another cove down here. And they're the same top and bottom. So that's about how it's going to look. And a little bit higher. About like that. Whoop. So I'm fairly happy with what I've got done so far. I've got another one to make. The sides of this have to be cut out, and it's just kind of an arbitrary pattern. There's a couple of OGs there and then a circle in the center. And that I think is so that you could grab the documents that are down in here. Also on this side here, we're going to have to put a lock, which is a piece of wood with a spring to it, and it goes in on this side, and I'll have to drill a hole so that I can put a pin through there so you can push the lock to pull it out. Otherwise it will snap into place into a recess that I'm going to have to put on the inside of here. So that's kind of where we're at with the document folders. Well, I'll show you how I did the fluted columns here that there is on the front of this. So I've got the router table set up with a 1/4 inch bit. It's an 1/8 of an inch deep, and that's what these are. There's an 1/8 of an inch on either side, and then the 4 1/4 inch pieces in the center. So I have marked on the edges here where I want the flutes stopped, top and bottom, and there's lines on the table here that shows where the beginning and ending is of that 1/4 inch bit. This is set up to cut the furthest, the one closest to me, groove or dado into it, and of course you can slide it back and forth to where, and you drop it. So you line up the line here with the mark there and drop it onto the cutter, push it along and stop when the rear mark hits the back mark. So then so that cuts the first flute. You have 3 more to cut, so you don't want to have to change setups at all. So the next one's a 1/2 inch further away, so I got a 1/2 inch piece of wood here that I had ripped off And again, you drop it on there to start, push it down and stop. So there's a half, and then a 1 inch that cuts the third slot, and then there's one that's 1.5 inches, I think. Right? Yeah, that would be right. And so it cuts this last flute here. So that's it. So if you're careful when you lay it down to hit that mark exactly, and stop when you hit that mark exactly, they end up pretty even. So that's how it's done, or how I did it. Well, it's time for secret compartments here. So as long as you don't promise to not tell anybody, I'll show you. So we have a paper clip here with a small hole that'll be behind the drawers. And that pushes out the lock. Which is just a spring piece of wood here that you can push down into the slot, and of course it sticks out, and when you slide it back in, you can hear the click. So then it is a little loose. I don't know if I'll correct that or not, but anyway, it doesn't come out. And so I'm making another one on the other side. So you drill the hole, and I made the little piece of cherries, and it's a wedge, thinner at this end, about 1/8 inch thick at this end, and about 1/16 at that end. And there's a mark. There's the mark there where the hole hit, the pin would hit. So I've got to carve this down. It'll be deeper here and shallower there, so that the thing springs out, and then we'll catch in the groove. And then of course we have to put a groove on the inside of that one so that this catches on it. Well, I'm working on the valances now, so I taped 4 of them together and used the pattern that I had made, cut them out on the bandsaw, and then cleaned them up a little bit with the spindle sander. So I've got 4 more of them over here, and I had a pretty good fit. This one's a hair small. On this side, it fits tight. I think they're all the same size. So I'll glue them in, and then we'll put some reinforcing glue blocks in the back, like so. Well, I've got all the partitions in, and the document folders made, and everything's all glued up. The valances are on. So now I'm going to turn my attention to the drawer fronts.